Hey, what's going on? Celebrity health expert Obie here. Want to talk about the 3 foods that naturally decrease stress or your cortisol levels. What is that? Before we talk about the foods that decrease your stress or your cortisol levels, we need to talk about cortisol. What is that? Cortisol plays such an integral role in your body, all right? Crazy integral role. This thing affects your sleep cycle. It affects how your body uses proteins, carbs, and fats. It affects your blood pressure and your blood sugar levels, and it affects the amount of inflammation in your body. When your cortisol is not balanced, it leads to so many health issues you have no idea. Okay? The cortisol is your stress hormone. That's what cortisol is. It's your stress hormone. And your adrenal gland releases cortisol, all right? Especially when you're in a stressful situation and your body is under a lot of stress, all right? So when your body is under a high amount of stress, your adrenal gland will release cortisol inside your body. When you have too much cortisol inside your body, it's going to lead to a high amount of inflammation. And what does inflammation lead to? High amount of inflammation? It can lead to higher blood pressure levels, right? Which can lead to potentially a stroke and potentially a heart attack, all right? So it's so important to make sure that your cortisol levels are not too high. That's why they always say make sure make sure you minimize your stress levels, because when your stress levels are too high and your cortisol levels are too high, it leads to so many crazy chronic health diseases that you have no idea. Type 2 diabetes, cancers, so many different chronic health diseases that can affect you if your cortisol levels are too high. Now let's talk about what foods you should eat. The foods you should eat you should be focused on an anti-inflammatory diet. Now, what is that? It's basically a diet that is associated with the Mediterranean diet. So focusing on fatty fish types of foods, like omega-3 fatty acids, like mackerel, like salmon, sardines. Any type of fish is definitely going to help to reduce inflammation, which will also reduce cortisol levels. Other types of food is chicken, fruits, vegetables, all right? Anytime that you consume fruits and vegetables and chicken and fish and healthy proteins and whole grains, basically eat it in a balanced way. Staying away from processed foods, focusing more on whole foods, staying away from junk food. Anytime you consume a high amount of processed foods and junk food, it will increase your cortisol levels, all right? Which will lead to higher inflammation, and higher inflammation is going to lead to higher cortisol levels. So those foods, if you can focus on fatty fish as a food staple, that is going to help to reduce cortisol levels and reduce inflammation in your body. Understand that inflammation leads to higher cortisol levels, all right? That's one of the best ways to reduce your stress levels is your diet. And of course, lifestyle factors like exercising, working out, and cardiovascular, and running, and lifting weights, 100%. But if the topic is really focusing on diet, that is the type of food you should be eating. If you eat that on a regular, you're definitely going to have a lower risk of you're going to bring down your cortisol levels for sure. They're going to be balanced, right? And you're going to reduce your inflammation levels in your body. And so that's the name of the game. So if you focus on those foods, you're going to be lower cortisol levels, lower inflammation, lower stress levels, and you're going to be so much healthier. Understand that higher inflammation leads to higher cortisol levels, which can lead to a high amount of chronic health diseases. And none of us want chronic health diseases, because now we're in and out of the hospital and we're dealing with issues that we don't want to deal with. I hope that helps you. For more tips, go and subscribe and like to my YouTube channel. If anyone has any interest in weight loss, body sculpting, any of my coaching programs, click on the description there, and I can definitely be there to help you out. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Stay blessed. Take care.